The strange signals began on a quiet Tuesday. At first, just background noise that Earth's deep space arrays picked up. But within days, scientists realized something was different about these pulses. They had patterns, meaning, purpose. Dr. Adam West stared at the monitor, his eyes red from lack of sleep. For 3 weeks, he had been analyzing the signal, looking for any clue to decode it. "Anything new?" Laura Simmons asked, setting a coffee cup beside him. As the head of signal processing at the Global Space Agency, she had been working alongside Adam since the discovery. "Maybe." Adam pointed to a repeating sequence. "This pattern keeps showing up. I think it might be some kind of mathematical key." Laura leaned closer. "Have you tried using prime numbers as a cipher?" Adam's fingers flew across the keyboard, applying the new algorithm. The screen flickered, and suddenly, the random symbols began transforming into readable data. "My God," Adam whispered. "You did it." 3 days later, the world's leaders gathered in an emergency session as Adam and Laura presented their findings. "The signal contains several things," Laura explained. "First, a greeting. Second, information about the sender, something called the Galactic Council of Allied Species. And third," she paused, "an announcement that they're coming to Earth." The room erupted in chaos. "When?" asked the Secretary General. "According to our calculations," Adam replied, "they'll arrive in approximately 2 weeks." Governments worldwide scrambled to prepare. Military forces went on high alert. Religious leaders called for calm. Citizens stockpiled supplies or celebrated, depending on their view of potential alien visitors. 14 days later, it happened. A massive ship, unlike anything humans had ever built, appeared in Earth orbit. Its surface shimmered with materials unknown to Earth science, and it moved with impossible grace for its size. The ship sent a simple message: "We come in peace and fellowship. We request a meeting with your leaders." After hurried global conferences, the United Human Diplomatic Corps was formed, with experienced diplomat John Miller appointed as Earth's primary ambassador. Supporting him were scientists, military advisors, and cultural experts, including Adam and Laura. The meeting location was set, a neutral conference facility in Geneva, modified to accommodate the alien visitors. When the council representatives finally emerged from their shuttle, humans got their first look at extraterrestrial life. The 2 primary delegates couldn't have been more different. One was tall and slender with iridescent skin that seemed to flow like liquid, a Tellurian. The other, a Vespian, resembled an upright insect with complex compound eyes and delicate wing-like appendages. "We welcome you to Earth," Ambassador Miller said, bowing slightly. The Tellurian delegate's skin rippled with colors before it spoke through a translation device. "We bring greetings from the 1,327 species of the Galactic Council. We are pleased to finally make contact with humanity." The initial meeting went smoothly. The aliens explained that they had been observing Earth for decades, waiting for humans to reach certain technological and social milestones before making contact. Now, they wished to invite Earth to join their interstellar community. "This is a standard process," the Vespian explained, its voice clicking rhythmically. "All species go through the same integration procedure." Ambassador Miller accepted a data device containing the Council's membership terms. "We appreciate your offer. We'll need time to review these terms, of course." "Of course," the Tellurian agreed. "Though the terms are quite standard, we expect you'll find them most reasonable." That night, as the human diplomatic team reviewed the document, their initial excitement faded. Laura, examining the technical specifications, was the first to notice something troubling. "These technology restrictions," she said, pointing to a clause. "They would essentially freeze our development for decades." As they dug deeper, more concerning details emerged. Resource quotas, military limitations, required supervision periods. By morning, Ambassador Miller's expression was grim. The Galactic Council's offer wasn't an invitation to join as equals. It was something far different. The second meeting with the Galactic Council representatives took place in a larger room. More human officials attended, all wearing serious expressions. Ambassador Miller had barely slept, spending the night reviewing the terms with his team. "We have examined your membership proposal," Miller began, his voice controlled despite his concerns. The Tellurian representative's skin shifted to a pleased blue-green color. "Excellent. When would you like to begin the implementation process?" Miller exchanged glances with Dr. Kate Davis, the science advisor who had discovered the most troubling clauses. She gave a slight nod. "Before we proceed," Miller said carefully, "we have some questions about specific terms." The Vespian's antennae twitched. "Questions? The terms are standard for all new species. There shouldn't be any confusion." Miller opened a folder. "Let's start with the resource quotas. Section 12 states that Earth must provide annual shipments of rare minerals, including uranium, platinum, and something called isotope 291. Yes, all member worlds contribute to the Council's needs," the Tellurian said smoothly. "At the quantities listed, we would deplete our accessible reserves within 30 years, Miller pointed out. Laura Simmons added, "And the technology sharing seems one-sided. We provide all our scientific data, but receive only limited access to Council knowledge." The Vespian's wings fluttered in apparent agitation. "New species must prove their responsibility. Surely you understand the dangers of providing advanced technology too quickly." Dr. Davis spoke up. "I'm particularly concerned about Appendix F, which wasn't translated in the main document." She held up a tablet showing alien script alongside her translation. "It appears to give Council inspectors unlimited access to all Earth facilities and the right to veto any research deemed potentially destabilizing." The Tellurian's skin darkened. "A minor oversight in translation. That clause is merely a formality." Colonel Eric Jones, the military advisor, leaned forward. "And the requirement to reduce our defense forces by 60% while hosting Council peacekeeping ships in orbit. Is that also a formality?" The atmosphere in the room grew tense. The Vespian's translator clicked rapidly as it conversed with the Tellurian in their native languages. Finally, the Tellurian spoke again. "Perhaps we've overwhelmed you with details. The supervision period is only 75 of your Earth years, quite brief in galactic terms. After that, some restrictions would be eased." "Some restrictions?" Miller questioned. "The most essential ones remain permanent, naturally," the Vespian added. "For the harmony of all Council species." Miller closed his folder. "I see. And if Earth were to suggest modifications to these terms?" The alien representatives exchanged looks that needed no translation. "These terms have been carefully balanced over millennia," the Tellurian explained, its skin now pulsing with red undertones. "They cannot be substantially altered without disrupting the entire Council framework." "How many other species have joined under these exact terms?" asked Susan Grant, the economic advisor. "All 1,327 current members," the Vespian stated proudly. Miller nodded slowly. "My colleagues and I will need to consult with our governments. This is a momentous decision affecting all of humanity." "Of course," the Tellurian said, though its skin now displayed patches of yellow, a color they hadn't seen before. "Though we had hoped for a prompt response. The Council rarely extends membership offers." "We understand the honor," Miller replied diplomatically. "We'll provide our answer within 1 Earth week." As the human delegation gathered their materials to leave, Dr. Davis whispered to Miller, "Did you notice how nervous they became when we questioned the terms?" Miller nodded slightly. "Yes. It makes me wonder what happens to species who don't immediately accept." The Tellurian's translator caught his words. Its skin flashed briefly to deep purple before returning to a neutral blue. "Something wrong?" Miller asked innocently. "Not at all," the Tellurian replied. "We simply look forward to Earth's wise decision." The Geneva International Conference Center hummed with tense energy. Leaders from every nation on Earth had gathered for what many called the most important meeting in human history. The room was arranged in a massive circle, with Ambassador Miller at the center podium. "Ladies and gentlemen," Miller began, his voice echoing through the silent hall, "you've all reviewed the Council's terms. Now we must decide humanity's future." The Secretary General stood first. "Before we vote, I'd like to hear from our experts." Colonel Frank Bennett, a veteran military strategist with gray at his temples, approached the podium. He tapped a screen, and holographic images of the Council ship appeared. "Based on our scans, their technology is approximately 200 years ahead of ours," he stated flatly. "However, their weapons systems seem designed for intimidation rather than efficiency. They rely on their advanced status rather than actual military superiority." He pointed to specific areas of the ship. "These shield generators have vulnerabilities. Their weapons, while impressive, show design patterns suggesting they haven't faced serious combat in centuries." Susan Grant spoke next, her economic analysis displayed in simple graphs. "The resource demands would cripple our economy. But more concerning is the pattern I've identified." She highlighted sections of the document. "These terms are designed not just to extract resources, but to keep us dependent. Each restriction ensures we remain suppliers, never competitors." Dr. Kate Davis added her scientific assessment. "The technology embargoes would halt progress in medicine, energy, and space travel. Meanwhile, they gain full access to our genetic diversity, art, and cultural data. This isn't a partnership, it's a harvesting operation." For hours, the debate continued. Some argued that even unfair terms were better than potential conflict. Others insisted humanity must stand independent. Finally, the president of the African Union stood. "My continent has seen this before," she said quietly. "Different words, same story. Powerful outsiders offering protection while taking everything of value. We know where this path leads." Her words shifted the mood. One by one, leaders spoke in favor of independence. When the final vote came, it was unanimous. Earth would decline council membership. The next day, Ambassador Miller met again with the alien representatives. The council members seemed relaxed, clearly expecting acceptance. "The United Governments of Earth have reached their decision," Miller began formally. The Tellurian skin brightened with anticipation. "We respectfully decline your offer of membership in the Galactic Council." The translation device seemed to stutter. The Vespian's wings froze mid-flutter. "There must be some misunderstanding," the Tellurian said, its skin now rapidly cycling through colors. "No species has ever refused membership." "There's no misunderstanding," Miller replied calmly. "We've examined the terms carefully. They don't align with our vision for humanity's future." The Vespian's translator emitted a series of sharp clicks before words formed. "This is unprecedented. Perhaps you don't understand the opportunity being presented." "We understand perfectly," Miller said. "We appreciate the contact and would welcome future relationship discussions based on mutual respect and equal standing." The two aliens conferred urgently in their native languages. The Tellurian skin had settled into a deep purple that seemed to pulse with intensity. "Ambassador Miller," it finally said, "refusing council integration has implications. Unaffiliated species often face difficulties in galactic society." Miller smiled slightly. "Are you threatening us?" "Merely stating facts," the Vespian responded quickly. "The galaxy can be dangerous for isolated worlds." Miller stood. "Then we'll have to ensure we're not isolated, won't we? Please inform your council that while we decline these terms, Earth remains open to fair diplomatic relations." As the aliens departed, Laura Simmons approached Miller. "Think they'll come back with better terms?" Miller watched the alien shuttle rise toward their ship. "I don't know. But I suspect we've just changed their playbook for the first time in centuries." Above Earth, the Council ship's lights flashed in patterns of increasing urgency. Inside, urgent messages were being sent across the stars. Humanity had done something unprecedented, and the Galactic Council didn't know how to respond. The Grand Chamber of Nexus Prime fell into chaos as the report from Earth reached the full Galactic Council. The circular hall, designed to showcase the harmony of the 1,327 member species, now erupted with shouting, clicking, humming, and various other forms of agitated communication. High Counselor Zorthvac, a massive being with crystalline features that caught the light from the chamber's central column, raised all four of his upper limbs for silence. The tumult gradually subsided. "Is this information verified?" he asked, his deep voice resonating through the chamber. The Tellurian envoy, who had just returned from Earth, stepped forward, its skin still showing distress patterns. "It is, High Counselor. The humans have formally rejected our standard integration package." Fresh murmurs swept through the assembly. "Impossible," called out a reptilian counselor. "No species has ever rejected membership. It contradicts all sociological models." The Vespian representative clicked its mandibles together. Yet they did, without hesitation. Their ambassador suggested alternative terms, as equals. Counselor Miradax, a gaseous entity contained within a floating orb, drifted forward. "What is their true technological capacity? The reports must be flawed." A holographic display activated in the center of the chamber, showing images of Earth's cities, military, and infrastructure. "Their visible technology is primitive," the Tellurian stated. "However, our scans detected unusual energy signatures in several research facilities, and their rate of advancement exceeds our prediction models by 42%. High Counselor Zorthvac's crystalline features darkened. "Did they detect the monitoring devices we placed during the diplomatic meetings?" "Yes," the Vespian admitted. "They identified and neutralized all 17 units within hours of our departure. Their counterintelligence is concerning." The chamber erupted again until Zorthvac called for order. "This situation is unprecedented," he declared. "Earth was identified as a prime resource world. The humans were supposed to be grateful for our attention, intimidated by our technology, and easily manageable like all other species." An avian counselor fluffed her feathers nervously. "Could they become a threat if they continue advancing at current rates?" "Exactly why the integration protocols exist," interrupted Counselor Drax, a hulking being from a heavy gravity world. "I suggest immediate military action. We can't allow a potentially hostile species to develop unchecked." Several counselors chittered in agreement, but a smaller figure stepped forward. Counselor Aerolith, one of the oldest members of the council, rarely spoke at these gatherings. The chamber quieted immediately. "In our 10,000 years of expansion," Aerolith said, voice barely above a whisper, "we've encountered many species. All accepted our terms because they saw no alternative. The humans are the first to recognize the true nature of our generous offer." Drax growled. "Your point, Aerolith." "Perhaps," Aerolith continued, "this is an opportunity for reflection. Our ancestors formed this council for mutual protection and advancement. When did we become exploiters rather than partners?" "Sentimentality," Zorthvac dismissed. "The council's structure ensures stability." "For those at the top," Aerolith countered. "Yet we face growing resource shortages and technological stagnation. Perhaps the humans see something we've forgotten." The intelligence director, a multi-eyed being, projected new images. "We've intercepted their internal communications. The humans are mobilizing. Their military readiness has increased by 78%. They're preparing defensive systems throughout their solar system." The Tellurian skin paled. "They expect us to retaliate." "And they're ready to fight," added the Vespian. High Counselor Zorthvac stood silent for a moment, then turned to the full assembly. "We have 3 options. Force them to comply. Leave them isolated. Or," he hesitated, "consider their counter-proposal." Counselor Aerolith's small group of supporters moved forward. "I request permission to lead a new diplomatic mission. One with actual authority to negotiate." "Preposterous," shouted Drax. "No special terms." As arguments flared again, Intelligence officers quietly updated their displays. Earth's first interstellar defense platform had just come online. Humans were advancing faster than anyone had predicted. And somewhere in the chamber, a few counselors began to wonder, what if the humans weren't just another species to exploit? What if they were something the galaxy hadn't seen in millennia? A people who refused to bow to power. The alarm blared across the Houston Space Command Center as another test was completed. Engineers and military personnel moved with practiced efficiency, no longer showing the panic of 8 weeks ago, when the Council ship had departed. "Shield test successful," announced Maria Johnson, wiping sweat from her forehead. As the lead engineer on Project Aegis, she had barely slept since Earth's rejection of the Council's terms. General Scott Hayes looked at the readings and nodded with approval. "Power consumption, 30% less than our previous design," Maria replied, allowing herself a small smile. "We can now protect a city with the energy output of a medium-sized power plant." Around the world, similar scenes played out. What had begun as separate national efforts had quickly unified into a global defense initiative. Old rivalries were set aside as humanity prepared for potential retaliation. In orbit, construction crews worked around the clock on the first true human warship. Named Defiance, it incorporated technologies that were merely theoretical before the Council's visit. Studying the alien ship, even from a distance, had advanced human understanding by decades. Admiral Paul Carter floated through the ship's nearly completed command center. "How long until weapons systems are online?" he asked the project director. 48 hours, came the reply. "The particle cannons are based on Council designs, but with significant improvements. We think they'll be surprised." The Admiral nodded. "They certainly won't expect us to have reverse-engineered their technology so quickly." Elsewhere in the solar system, automated factories on the Moon and Mars produced defense satellites. Mining operations in the asteroid belt extracted materials needed for the massive buildup. Humanity had united with single-minded purpose. In Geneva, Ambassador Miller worked with a different kind of defense. His team analyzed every scrap of information gleaned from the Council representatives. "Their social structure has vulnerabilities," noted Dr. Davis, pointing to her findings. "The Council isn't as unified as they wanted us to believe. Several species seem to resent the dominant members." Miller rubbed his tired eyes. "Can we use that?" "Absolutely," Laura Simmons replied. "We've drafted a counter-proposal emphasizing mutual benefit rather than submission. It might appeal to those Council species who've been getting the short end of the stick." Miller reviewed the document, impressed by its balance of firmness and diplomacy. "This could work, especially if they're divided on how to handle us." A young aide burst into the room. "Sir, our deep space arrays have detected movement. Council ships, at least 3 of them, heading toward Earth." The global defense network activated immediately. Around the planet, shield generators hummed to life. The Defiance moved into position, its crew prepared for the worst but hoping for peace. President Eleanor Wright addressed the world from an underground command center. "Citizens of Earth, we stand at a pivotal moment. We've chosen independence and dignity over submission. Whatever comes next, know that humanity faces it united." Admiral Carter's voice came through on the command channel. "Defiance is ready, Madam President." "Defense grid at full capacity," reported General Hayes. "Diplomatic team standing by," added Ambassador Miller. As the Council ships approached, humanity held its breath. Children looked to the sky with mixture of wonder and fear. Parents held them close. Soldiers stood at their posts, resolute. Maria Johnson watched from the control room as her shield designs glowed to life across the planet. "Do you think they'll actually attack?" she asked the technician beside her. "I don't know," he replied. "But if they do, they'll find we're not the easy target they expected." The lead Council ship slowed as it entered the outer solar system, seemingly surprised by the array of defense platforms already in place. Its communication systems activated, sending a message toward Earth. "They're requesting diplomatic talks," announced the communications officer at Space Command. Ambassador Miller smiled slightly. Not an attack force then. A new negotiating team. He straightened his jacket. Let's show them humanity's ready for either option. As the Earth delegation prepared to meet the Council representatives again, they carried with them not just their counterproposal, but the strength of a united human race. The message was clear. Humanity would not be controlled, exploited, or intimidated. Not now. Not ever. The meeting room aboard the Defiance had been carefully designed. Earth representatives sat on one side of a circular table, leaving no doubt this was their territory. Admiral Carter stood near the entrance, a silent reminder of humanity's new military readiness. Ambassador Miller watched as the new council delegation entered. He noted immediately that these were different representatives, not just the Tellurian and Vespian from before, but 5 different species, including one he recognized from intelligence briefings as Counselor Aerolith. "Welcome to humanity's first interstellar vessel," Miller said, extending no apology for having arranged the meeting on a warship. Aerolith stepped forward, smaller than the others, but clearly in charge. "We appreciate your welcome, Ambassador. The Council has sent us with a revised integration proposal." Miller nodded, keeping his expression neutral. "We're willing to listen." A tall being with iridescent scales placed a device on the table. It projected a holographic document. "We've made significant concessions," the being said. "Resource quotas reduced by 30%. Technology restrictions limited to weapons only. Supervision period shortened to 40 years. Dr. Davis scanned the document quickly, her trained eyes picking out the key points. She gave Miller a subtle headshake. Miller leaned forward. "Before you continue, I believe we should be clear about something." He nodded to Laura Simmons, who activated Earth's own projection system. The room filled with images of Earth's new defense systems, manufacturing capabilities, and scientific advancements, all developed in just weeks since the Council's first visit. "This is what humanity accomplished while you debated how to handle us," Miller said calmly. "We reverse-engineered several of your technologies and improved upon them." Admiral Carter stepped forward. "The Defiance can match the capabilities of your escort vessels, despite being our first attempt at an interstellar warship. We have 17 more under construction." The Council representatives shifted uncomfortably, except for Aerolith, who watched with what appeared to be interest rather than alarm. Miller continued, "Now, instead of reviewing your revised offer, I'd like to present ours." He activated another display showing Earth's counter-proposal. "We call this the Mutual Cooperation Framework." The document outlined a fundamentally different relationship: equal trading rights, voluntary technology exchanges, cultural sharing programs, and full recognition of Earth's sovereignty. "This isn't an integration plan," the Scaled being objected. "This is a treaty between equals." "Precisely," Miller replied. Aerolith moved closer to the display, examining the details. "Interesting. You propose joint research rather than technology transfers." "Yes," Dr. Davis explained. "We believe both sides benefit more from collaboration than from one-way exchanges." The Council members conferred in hushed tones. Miller caught fragments of their conversation. Unprecedented. Council protocol. Direct challenge. Finally, Aerolith turned back to the humans. "Your proposal contradicts thousands of years of Council practice." "Perhaps those practices need updating," Miller suggested. "We've studied your history as best we could. The Council was founded as a federation of equals, not a hierarchy of control." Aerolith's expression shifted in what Miller guessed might be approval. "You're well informed, Ambassador." "We try to be. Now, shall we discuss our proposal point by point?" The tallest Council member stepped forward suddenly. "This is outrageous. You are barely space-capable. You should be grateful for any membership terms." Admiral Carter touched a control on his wrist. On the view screen behind him, a simulation appeared showing Earth's defense grid activating. The simulation tracked Council ships being targeted by dozens of weapons platforms. "We prefer diplomacy," Carter said quietly, "but we're prepared for alternatives." The room fell silent. The aggressive council member stepped back. Aerolith looked from the humans to his fellow representatives. I believe we should examine the human proposal in detail. There are elements of wisdom in their approach. Miller smiled for the first time. Then let's begin. Section 1 addresses trade relationships. As they moved through the document, Miller noticed something unexpected. Several of the council representatives seemed almost relieved, as if the humans had somehow given them permission to imagine a different kind of galactic community. By the time they reached the final sections, even the most reluctant council member was engaged in genuine negotiation rather than dictation. Something fundamental had shifted. Humanity had forced the council to see them not as subjects, but as equals. 6 months after the negotiations aboard the Defiance, Ambassador John Miller stood in the Grand Council chamber on Nexus Prime. Before him spread a vast assembly of representatives from across the galaxy. The Treaty of Sol, as it had come to be known, lay displayed on a ceremonial platform. For the first time in 5,000 years, High Counselor Aerolith announced, having replaced Zorthak after the recent council reforms, we welcome a new member who has chosen their own path to join us. Miller stepped forward to sign the treaty. The chamber, once a place of rigid hierarchy, now showed the first signs of transformation. Smaller species who had long been silent now sat in positions of greater prominence. Humanity thanks the Council for embracing change, Miller said, his voice carrying through the vast space. Together, we begin a new chapter in galactic history. Not all were pleased. The former dominant factions, led by Councillor Drax, watched from the edges with barely concealed anger. Their power had diminished rapidly once the Treaty of Sol established new principles of interspecies relations. After the ceremony, Miller met with Aerolith in a smaller chamber. You've upended 10 millennia of tradition in half a year, Aerolith remarked, a note of admiration in their voice. Miller shook his head. We simply refuse to accept inequality as tradition. Many species are studying your approach. Already, 3 resource worlds are demanding renegotiation of their terms. Back on Earth, humanity's expansion had begun. The first colony ship, Hope's Horizon, departed for the Tau Ceti system, filled with families ready to establish humanity's first foothold beyond Sol. Captain Lisa Martinez watched Earth shrink behind them, her hand resting on the ship's control panel. FTL drive ready, her first officer reported. Engage, she ordered. The stars blurred as the ship leaped forward, using technology developed through the new joint research initiatives established under the treaty. On Mars, Dr. Kate Davis led a mixed team of human and alien scientists studying terraforming techniques. The Vespian atmospheric processors combined with our bioengineering could reduce the timeline by decades, she explained to visitors touring the facility. Not everything was smooth. In diplomatic quarters, tensions remained with the Council factions who had lost power. Several incidents along newly established trade routes suggested some were not ready to accept the new order. Admiral Carter, now leading Earth's growing defense fleet, monitored these situations carefully. They're testing our resolve, he told the Security Council during a briefing. We need to remain vigilant while continuing to build alliances. The real victory came 3 years after the Treaty of Sol, when the first newly discovered sentient species was contacted by a joint Human Council expedition. The Novarians, still confined to their home planet, but developing quickly, received very different terms than those once offered to Earth. Ambassador Miller, now serving as the first human High Counselor, personally oversaw the contact protocol. Welcome to the galactic community, he told the Novarian leaders. We come as friends and potential partners, respecting your sovereignty and your right to choose your own path. The Novarians were shown both the Treaty of Sol and the original integration terms once used by the Council. They immediately recognized the difference. How did this change happen? Their head representative asked. Miller smiled. One species refused to be controlled. Sometimes that's all it takes to change the course of history. As human settlements expanded and Earth's influence grew, the old Council powers continued to struggle with the new reality. Species that had been exploited for centuries now found their voices. Trade became more equitable. Technology flowed more freely. Maria Johnson, whose shield designs had helped Earth stand firm during the crisis, now led an interspecies engineering consortium developing technologies to benefit developing worlds. The irony, she told her team during a celebration, is that by refusing to join the council on their terms, we ended up creating a better council for everyone. On distant worlds where humanity had never been seen, the story spread of how a single species had stood against an ancient power and refused to bow, how they had chosen possible destruction over certain submission, how they had changed the galaxy not through conquest, but by simply saying no to injustice. The humans, once feared as potential disruptors, became known as something else entirely. Liberators. 20 years after the Treaty of Sol, humanity's influence had spread throughout the galaxy in ways no one could have predicted. No longer just diplomats and soldiers, humans have become teachers, traders, artists, and most surprisingly to many council species, friends. On the frontier world of New Eden, the 10th human colony, a remarkable experiment was underway. It was the first truly mixed settlement, where humans lived alongside 12 other species. Children of different worlds played together in parks designed to accommodate every biology. Markets buzzed with languages from across the stars. Governor Olivia Martinez walked through the central plaza, stopping to speak with both human and alien residents. As one of Admiral Carter's former officers, she had once prepared for war against these same beings. Now she governed them together. The school expansion is nearly complete, reported her assistant, a young Tellurian whose skin rippled with cheerful green patterns. The new wing will accommodate the draconian children who need higher gravity environments. Excellent, Martins replied. And the medical center. Dr. Wilson says the combined human-Vespian treatment protocols are showing remarkable results. Diseases once thought incurable are responding well. This cooperation wasn't limited to frontier worlds. On Earth itself, alien exchange students filled universities, while human culture, music, art, literature, had become wildly popular throughout council space. What many species found most fascinating was humanity's endless variety, their conflicting viewpoints somehow producing innovation rather than just chaos. Not everyone embraced the new order. On Nexus Prime, Counselor Drax and his allies had formed what they called the traditional council faction. They worked constantly to undermine human influence, seeing it as a threat to the old power structures that had benefited them for millennia. They contaminate everything they touch. Drax growled during a private meeting with his supporters. 4 more resource worlds have demanded treaty revisions this cycle alone. His chief strategist, a silicon-based being, displayed troubling data. The humans have helped 27 exploited species renegotiate their terms. Our resource supply chains are disrupted, and our exclusive technology controls are eroding. Then we must act decisively, Drax decided. If we cannot defeat them directly, we will isolate them. Cut them off from the Council's trade networks. Force them back to their own system. The plot nearly succeeded. Using their remaining influence, Drax's faction engineered a series of crises that temporarily severed key trade routes to Earth. They expected humanity to struggle and withdraw. Instead, humanity adapted. When denied access to essential materials, human engineers developed alternatives. When cut off from Council communication networks, they built their own. Each challenge made them more self-sufficient while strengthening their bonds with other independent-minded species. The final confrontation came at the Council's Centennial Assembly. Drax moved to formally censure Earth for disrupting galactic stability. It was a calculated political move designed to force humanity to choose between submission or isolation. High Counselor Miller listened calmly to the charges. When Drax finished, Miller did not immediately respond. Instead, he gestured to the chamber doors. They opened to reveal representatives from over 60 species, many from worlds once tightly controlled by Drax's faction. One by one, they entered and stood behind the human delegation. "We do not stand alone," Miller said simply. The vote that followed wasn't even close. Drax's faction lost not just the motion, but the remaining political power. The galaxy had chosen a new path forward. Later that evening, Erelith found Miller on a balcony overlooking the capital city. "You've accomplished something remarkable," Erelith said. "Not conquest, but genuine change." Miller smiled, watching the diverse beings moving through the streets below. "We just reminded everyone of something they'd forgotten. That true strength comes from cooperation, not control. That differences can be celebrated, not just tolerated." "And what next for humanity?" Erelith asked. Miller looked up at the stars, his eyes reflecting their light. "We keep exploring, keep learning, keep helping others stand on their own. That's always been our best quality, not just wanting freedom for ourselves, but for everyone." Below them, in the city that had once symbolized rigid hierarchy, a new galaxy was taking shape, one that would never again mistake submission for peace.